Have you seen the price of eggs lately? It's ridiculous. They say the avian flu is going through the flocks, killing a lot of birds, but I think we all know what's really going on. It's all this cage-free nonsense. These birds have gotten a taste of freedom, now they think they're running the place. I say we lock the little pecker faces back up, let them start crapping on top of each other's heads for a few months. Then we'll see who's in charge. Then we'll see how many eggs we get. Unfortunately, I don't have the power to make such decisions on a worldwide basis, but I can build my own chicken coop, get my own chickens, lock them up. Let's do that. My hope with this build is to keep it under $100, but I'm not sure that's going to happen without cooking the books. So I'll do a cost breakdown at the end of the video, and you guys can comment whether I'm an honest man or just a bald-faced liar. My first design for this coop was way overbuilt. I'm pretty sure it would have held at least 4 of me, and I'm worth at least 40 chickens. So that would have been 160 chickens, and I only want a max of 3. So I scaled back and came up with a design that I think will be robust enough to not blow over in the wind, but lean enough to help me hit the $100 price tag. I'm using pressure-treated lumber for the legs. That's the only part of this that's going to touch the ground, and then the rest of it is just framed out with normal 2x4s. I'm going to frame 2 walls, and then those walls will just be attached together by T111 sheathing. I'm using ceramic-coated screws to put this together. Those are rated for the pressure-treated lumber. They won't corrode like a normal fastener would in that lumber. I would have preferred to use hot-dipped galvanized nails. Those would have worked just as well. They would have been a lot faster and a lot cheaper, but I knew that I was going to be taking this apart several times throughout this build to modify the design, and screws just can't be beat for that purpose, so that's why I use the screws. They added some cost, and we'll go over that in the end, but if you're just making this and you know what you're doing, you could get away with galvanized nails, and they would do fine in the pressure-treated lumber, and they'd save you some money and probably some time. So the next step of this was to lay it out, lay my cuts out on this piece of T111. And you remember how I said I was going to have to be taking things apart to change the design? Well, that's the face of a man who has to take things apart to change the design. So thankfully I used those screws. The frame was just too wide. I needed to only take up half of that sheet, and it's taking up about an inch too much. So I needed to take things apart, cut those 2x4s down, and make it just a little bit narrower, so that I could get all of my panels out of one sheet of T111, because if I have to use 2 of those, then I'm going to be over $100 just in that. So I want to make sure that I only have to use one piece of T11 for this design. So I did some layout with a Sharpie and got my skill saw and started cutting these panels out. It went really well. You might notice that there's a CNC router behind me. I could have just used that, but I think that I'm a little bit more accurate than that thing is with my skill saw and Sharpie. So that's how I did it. Worked out really good. And now I just need to screw those panels on. Again, I'm using the ceramic coated screws here because most of these screws are going into the pressure treated lumber. Building a chicken coop is a really fun project because chickens are a great customer. They don't care about gaps, they don't care about square, they just care about being warm and dry and well fed. If you do that, you'll have some happy chickens. They'll give you lots of eggs, and whatever gaps there are is going to get covered up by caulk, and whatever caulk there is going to get covered up by chicken poop. So there's really no reason to fret over any little thing when you're building a chicken coop, and it makes for a really fun project. So this one I'm working on is going to be the nest box, and you'll notice that there's no 2x4 supports going from the main structure of the coop out to this portion of it. It's just held on by the strength of the T111, and then I'm adding some 2x4s so that I can screw the roof to something and I can attach the door that will hinge down and let you get access to the eggs. But other than that, it really doesn't need a lot of structure. It's never going to see very many loads. The chickens are not very heavy, so this is how I chose to do it, and I think that it's going to be plenty strong. I cannot tell you why, but attaching the door to the back of this nest box was the hardest part of this project. In fact, why don't you pause the video right now and comment a guess of how many tries it took me to get this door attached correctly. Go ahead, comment. Nice. That will now open. Oh, it won't? I'm so tired of being stupid. Those screws went into that wood. Oh gosh. So how many tries did you guess? If you guessed 5, then congratulations. You knew that I am an idiot. I would have guessed 1. I would have guessed that it would have taken 1 try to install a door on the back of a chicken coop. I would have been wrong. It was very frustrating, but I did get it, so. And this door that I'm working on now went much better, so that's, that's how it goes though. I learn. You learn from your mistakes. Make 5 mistakes, you learn something. The next one goes much more smoothly. I'm not going to show me installing that door because why would I? Why would I show the same thing again? These 2x4s I'm putting in right now are just to fill the gap that was there so that cold air can't blow up through the bottom of the floor. So there you see that gap is filled. Did you know that if you flip the saw blade around in one of these circular saws, you can use it to cut this steel roofing? It works super good. I didn't know it, but I learned it and I tried it and it worked really well. Way better than Tid Snips. Got a nice clean cut. It still leaves a sharp edge, sharp burr, so I'll be putting some sort of rubber trim on this roof so that I don't Freddy Krueger myself anytime I go to get some eggs. And I almost cut myself several times in this process because it's just hard to keep track of those sharp edges. All right, just using the table saw to cut up some trim out of some 2x4. Just want to kind of make this look a little bit nicer, I guess. Again, the chickens don't really care, but I think my wife does. So I'm going to trim it out. It's going to look real nice, real tight. You're going to be impressed. Just watch. Oh, wow. That looks great. That's not a chicken coop. That's a chicken mansion. Oh, look at all that space. Wow. Holy cow. Wow, that's great. Okay. All right, cost breakdown. Let's do this. I've got it all right here. Pressure treated lumber, 2 pieces, $7.88 a piece, $15.75. 2x4s, I need 5 of those for a total of $19.25. The T111, most expensive item, $56.64. OSB, $16.88. The metal roofing, $19.98. 3-inch ceramic coated screws, $10.97. 1 5/8 ceramic coated screws, $10.97. Caulk, $6.28. Paint, $22. Hinges and latches, can't remember. I'm going to call it $10. All right, what does that total to? $188.72. That's a lot over $100. But wait, I don't think it's fair that I bought all this material and I only used a portion of it. I've got a bunch of material in inventory now. That's not fair. That's unrealized value. So, you know what? I only used a quarter of the OSB, a quarter of a sheet. I only used it for the floor. Let's take that down to $4.22. That's how much I used. The steel roof, only used half of that, if that, $9.99. 3-inch screws, used a lot of those. Let's say $8. Agreed? Okay. 1 5/8 inch screws, didn't use so many of those. I'm only going to say I used $5 worth of those. I think that's fair. There's at least half a box there, at least. The caulk, used all that. The paint, I used very little paint. Very little paint. $2. I don't want to hear it. $2 is what it is. That's how much I used. I used $2 worth of paint. I got a freaking full can of paint. Hinges and latches, that $10 estimate is high. Let's change that to $5. That's more fair. All right, what are we at now? 132.13. Still kind of high, but getting a lot closer. What else can we shave off here? I was at the farm and country store the other day, and I was looking at their chicken coops, and they make theirs out of just plywood. They just paint the plywood. You can get a piece of plywood for $29.20. Listen, just because you can't build this chicken coop for $100 doesn't mean you can't build a chicken coop for $100, all right? So let's assume that you just have a little bit, you don't have as nice of taste, and you're like not needing the T111. That's just too fancy for you and your birds. Let's assume that maybe you use plywood, $29.20 instead of that $56.64. What does that bring us down to? $104.69. Still above $100. What else can we do here? Hinges and latches, just use duct tape. That's $99.69. Thanks for watching.